Folu.
Now it is 7:30 this fantastic holiday Tuesday. Happy Eid al-Kabir to everyone who's out there. I hope you're enjoying yourselves and getting ready to eat well today. But as usual, we are still going to be giving you those newspaper headlines and of course dissecting them in detail. And to help us do that this morning, we've got Fred Alison joining us. Good morning, Fred. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Always dapper. Just listen to that voice this fantastic holiday. We like it. We like it. Good job. Orji, don't be jealous. Orji Uka is also in the studio. Good morning, Orji.
Good morning. Good morning, Lagos. While responding to our stories today, please let us know where to come eat ram today.
Major key. We would like to know that. That's serious. And to share such information with us, you can do that by tweeting at us. Just use the hashtag
Freshly pressed 981. Just tweet at Smooth981FM with that hashtag.
Absolutely. You can also go over to our YouTube live stream and watch us up on the YouTube channel. Hello. So maybe if you are waking up a little bit late, you'll also be able to catch the replay a little later on. Yeah, we're about to jump into the stories for this morning.
Yep. The first story is from Vanguard newspaper. 112 Biafra women remanded in Owerri prison. In this story, Fred, Straight in Owerri, presided over by SK Durumba, Monday remanded 112 pro-Biafra women in Owerri prison. And in this story, we have an account that was written in detail about the pregnant woman, one of the two who were excused and taken to hospital for treatment. They said the pregnant woman sustained some injuries and bled profusely in that on that occurrence, really. And they are waiting to answer the charge. A couple of charges actually leveled against them, one of which is conspiring with others now at large to commit a felony to wit a treasonable felony, and others really. Now take us through the story, and it somehow just surprises some of us to realize that 112 women would go on the streets to do, carry out acts that, tantamount to treason. Let's look at the story in detail.
I know. When I saw this, I was a bit, taken aback, because it says the women. It also says that it was a peaceful protest.
Absolutely.
Yes. So if it was a peaceful protest, why would you beat up a pregnant woman so much that she had to be taken?
And there's nothing treasonable about protesting peacefully. It's within your rights.
So it's.
They were asking for Nnamdi Kanu. That's simple as that. That's what they were asking for his whereabouts. That was the protest. That was the treason.
Oh, so they were asking questions.
Yeah, it was
not necessarily disturbing, the activities that are going on in the state, because that's what some of the allegations said.
It even says the unlawful obstructing of flow of traffic and other business like flow of traffic. So I don't know. It to me seems like
trumped up charges.
Well, it seems like an excessive amount of force, because let's be honest, right? Yeah. If we're looking at the obstructing the flow of traffic and other offenses, we see this happen on the streets of different cities all the time. We see people driving the wrong way. We see people committing all sorts of actual criminal offenses. We don't always hear of the police or any other law enforcement agencies cracking down in such a manner. Now, what does it say about the sort of democracy that we are in if this is how women are being treated for peacefully protesting?
It says that we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. As I said, this just saddened me to see this, and the reporting of it too.
Absolutely. Do you think that there will be any sort of, or do you think that these women would be within their rights, perhaps, to take the state to court for such action? Because if you cost her the life of her fetus and actual damage to herself.
Yeah, I believe so, and I expect that actually.
I know she won't.
Why do you say that?
In my experience, a number of people who have issues with the police, they're always interested in their freedom, because when they threaten you and they beat you up and do all of these things, you are thrown behind bars, and then they are more interested in getting released. So the moment they are released, you won't go to particularly those ones who have been there for a long time. You go to them and tell them, look, not just can you be released without having to pay anything, you also have a course of action against them. They will just tell you, they'll be interested, but when they come out of prison, you have to beg them, and then which is not really your job. So
it's almost like intimidation tactics.
I think so.
From the force. Interesting. Moving on to this next story from ThisDay newspaper now. We talk about EFCC's probe on Benue accounts. A few days ago, we heard about that probe that EFCC instituted on these accounts. Now, the Abuja division of the Federal High Court, in an update, has ordered the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to stop further investigations into the finances of Benue State government, pending the determination of substantive suits by the state. Orji, take us through this.
issues regarding corruption are always lead to the always divides opinions. Okay, so I need to make that clear. But the fact of the matter is this: we are running what is supposed to be a federal system of government, and the implication is that all the tiers of government, well, not all the tiers, forget about local governments for now. At least the federal government and the states are all autonomous. The meaning is that an agency of the federal government, like the EFCC, should have no powers to freeze an account of a state. It's actually very simple. These are things we didn't hear about a long time ago. Yeah. But I said on Twitter sometime last week or 2 weeks ago, when they did it to Fayose, to his own personal account, despite the fact that he had immunity, we made noise. At the end of the day, the court agreed. You have no business going to freeze an account of a state government. So what has happened here is that, and the other part is the politicizing of this whole thing, because really there are allegations. What appears to have happened here is something that should be condemned, but there are ways of going around it. That's my point. So, and then the timing is by EFCC is never perfect. So someone is in PDP as a governor, you do nothing about the fact that there are corruption issues around him, and then you wait until he defects to another party. You then realize, oh, you are the worst devil around. So the timing is there. The issue of the constitutionality for me is even the bigger issue. So what has happened here is that just Nadi Dingba has made an order. He made the order on Monday that parties should take no further steps. So the case, the Attorney General of Benue State filed the action, and the state government filed the action challenging the powers of EFCC to investigate or inquire into the accounts of Benue State government by the reason of provisions of the Constitution. So these constitutional provisions are the ones that provide for what I mentioned earlier about fiscal autonomy to the states. So,
but one would expect that they would know better. I mean, the EFCC, but it seems as if by these actions that they have authority from a superior body who's giving them, leeway to carry out this act.
Well, I believe that order from above is only in Nigeria that we hear it. It's a phrase that we use all the time. About the EFCC, I'm sure they know. When they froze the account of a state governor, despite the fact that I had immunity, they tried to argue it, and I couldn't see an answer for it. But the important thing is that you'll always find lawyers on both sides. That's our job anyway. So if a client is struggling to say, advise me, give me a good opinion on whether this thing is right or wrong, most times, which is not the good thing to do, most times people walk to an answer. So just look for, it's like this issue of whether Saraki can be removed by 1/3 or 2/3 of the entire house or of the quorum and all that. So we always have lawyers on both sides. So there are people who advise the EFCC. They have a legal department. I believe they should know better. But they feel that they are right. So we let the court decide.
All right, interesting. Now, moving on, a quick reminder that you can send in your messages to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. Our next story, which is an update from what happened on Sunday morning, the demolition of the Ayefele's music house building in Ibadan. Now, the Oyo State government, in a reaction on Monday, said the decision to pull down part of the music house, which belonged to Yinka Ayefele, was not political, stressing that the building, which housed a radio station, valued at 800 million naira, according to that report, violated the physical planning law of the state. He said to give them, we already know they first issued the warning last year, that's 2017 in June 14, and they repeated another order, sending them a reminder on August 18, 2017, and the government said, well, they didn't heed to this request and warnings, but they still went ahead to carry out operations. They said it was first earmarked as a commercial building, but they ended up using it as a radio station. What's your take on this?
So I was just reading another report where the NBA in Ibadan was saying this is like politically driven because Ayefele had already gone to the courts to get a court injunction, but wasn't granted. And based on the fact that if there's something in the court, on that premise, the government is supposed to cease until the matter is dealt with in the courts. So, and then they allegate that because he's been singing against the current government is the reason why this was carried out. I just see it as some case of, regardless of what it is, he represents press, he represents freedom of, of speech, freedom of press. So they should have given some kind of leeway towards what the court hearings were. before taking his actions.
But when we discussed this story yesterday, there are a lot of sentiments that were whipped up around this. Stating some of these factors that you stated. But the government, in a reaction, actually said that the building was obstructing the view of their neighbors, the people who had buildings behind that from the road, and some other reports actually had it that it encroached in some part of the road that was earmarked for construction by the government. I mean, if you're given an order to remove some part of the structure by the government based on some future plan for construction, wouldn't you obey that? I mean, it seemed as if you went to court only last month, but this warning, the first instruction, was sent in since last year, and they sent the second one this month.
And he also said that he had his significant order, his wife,
go beg him.
Go beg them. So it seemed like there was some communication, So it wasn't something where there was just a blatant refusal to act. So there should have been some level of, I don't know, some level of
some discretion perhaps applied.
Yes, they should have given it to him, because it was already complying. It was already communicating with the government.
Well, with the governor directly. Well, we've got messages coming in, so let's see if we can take a few of these messages. Tunde up on WhatsApp says, IPOB is a proscribed group, so women carrying the Biafran flags around the street, especially in this time when they're daring to overthrow the government in some states, is just foolhardy. The pregnant women, though unfortunate, should not have joined. Very risky. No one is denying a risk, but we are saying that we should hold ourselves to higher standards of accountability. Leo says obstructing traffic flow is an offense, so all the Danfo drivers will be in jail. But are they? Does anybody stop them?
No.
Maybe I'm not aware. Please let us know. Sheo says, so a number of women protest. They are charged and clamped down for treasonable offenses in such a short period of time. The head of one of the security services held one of the pillars of democracy at gunpoint, more or less, but no charges yet. It's okay. Let's continue.
Let's continue to this next story from Premium Times. So, gentlemen, in July, MultiChoice Nigeria announced new monthly subscription rates for DSTV packages, ranging from premium compacts and family bouquets. And this, according to them, was in a bid to just introduce new rates and increments that really aligned with the economic situation in the country. But the Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday restrained MultiChoice Nigeria Limited from going ahead with its decision to increase the subscription tariffs from DSTV. The restraining order was issued and by this Consumer Protection Council in the light of strong public interest raised in the application. And if we recall, there was already an instruction, an ongoing investigation by the CPC with the February 16, 2016 order to MultiChoice that stated that they asked MultiChoice to make compensations to its subscribers within 90 days. That was one. Another, to put the services on hold whenever consumers were away on a trip or just out of the house, really, and also release free-to-air channels. And it seems as if some of these recommendations by the CPC as back of 2016 have not been complied with. But we're seeing this right now. Orji, do you think this is going to be implemented anytime soon?
I don't know. What I know for now is that the increase in subscription fee by DSTV has already taken effect.
Yeah.
No question about it.
From August 1st.
Yes, it did take effect. As a matter of fact, I went to the DSTV office yesterday deliberately, so normally I pay with my phone.
It's on the website.
Yeah.
Straight up.
I went there myself and I paid the new rates. I went there to pick up is this what's it called now? There's this green Nigeria DSTV.
Right, yeah, that they've been advertising.
Yes. Premium. So I went there to pick it up and then to see how much you're going to ask me to pay. So when did I just smiled? I just want to be sure first, so that if I speak on this matter, I know that I'm speaking from
an informed position.
That if it's taking effect. The other thing is, the moment I saw this story on Twitter yesterday, and I was a bit taken aback. Why would the court stop a private business from? Really, that's what this is about.
Yes.
DSTV is not a government agency or corporation. It is a private business. If this was about antitrust, if this was about competition, it's a different thing entirely. No, but it's interesting that it's the Consumer Protection Council.
That's what I was going to say, because it's the CPC that took this forward.
Yeah. So it was in reading it that. So there are two views. So the first view is that this is a private business. Allow them to do their business. Any person who says he doesn't like how they're treating the person, can look for alternatives. But unfortunately, what are the alternatives?
There are alternatives.
But Orji, the other thing that the story does point out is that perhaps another reason that the court entertained this is because there is still already an investigation.
I said there are two sides.
Okay.
There are two sides. So that's the major one for me, which is even what the story is about. I just want to mention that first.
Okay.
Now, the major thing here is that, like you pointed out, there was an increase in 2016, which led to an investigation by this Constitutional Protection Council. So, on the back of that, so they were several back and forth. They had agreed to get into some form of consent order to reach some resolutions. Whilst that was going on, DSTV went behind them
and just jacked it up again.
So the increase would definitely jeopardize whatever they were doing.
Yes.
So that's a bit of that. Because for me as a judge, I'm not a judge. I said if I were a judge, and you come to me to say,
but that's why the injunction. That's why the
injunction makes sense to anybody listening. Because if you in court, sorry.
Just for anybody listening, just to clarify, because people may not be aware the grounds under which the CPC were investigating them in February, it was alleged unfairness, arbitrariness, and excessiveness of the pricing and billing systems. So that's what they were looking into, because a number of people had been complaining about the way that they were being billed, as well as the prices, because yes, it's one thing to increase your prices. It's another thing when those bills start coming in and there are other things that are being added perhaps to the bill. And that was the basis of the investigation in 2016, which is another reason why the court would have listened to the request for the order for an injunction and granted the order for an injunction, just for everyone listening in Lagos and everywhere else. For those of you who complain that I talk only about Lagos.
And then let's also bear in mind that the court has agreed to grant the case accelerated hearing. It's been fixed for 28th of August for hearing. So we should look out for
but a lot of people are still paying.
That's another point. Ordinarily, you would have expected for this story to capture the response from
the multi-choice.
The good thing they contacted multi-choice to say they will get back to them, but as at press time, they have not done so. Maybe before the end of the day, we'll hear from multi-choice.
We shall see. Thank you very much for that. Do keep sending in your messages. Tweet at us as well. Use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 and send those messages to WhatsApp 0809 444 981. Moving on quickly, let's talk about Nigeria escaping FIFA's hammer, shall we? From ThisDay newspaper. Orji, I am going to stay with you for this one. The World Football Governing Body, FIFA, has confirmed that Nigeria will not be suspended following the federal government's explanation that the Amaju Pinnick-led executive committee remains the legitimate board for the Nigerian Football Federation. Of course, this is despite the efforts of Solomon Dalong, our sports minister, the able red beret man, who was really pushing for Chris Giwa to take over leadership of the NFF, and in fact wanted to fly to Zurich to go meet FIFA, who said, no, we're not interested in hearing from you. We will ban you. What are your thoughts on this, Orji?
I have a lot of things to say about this story, so I'll try and rush it off. Between 1989 and today, FIFA has banned Nigeria once. There was a two-year ban, and then for 5 times FIFA has threatened to ban Nigeria. So it's always and all of them are related to government interference. This is what FIFA does not like.
Yes,
football is not. Yes, in the peculiar case of Africa, we have a lot of governments.
We politicize all of this
of football, but as a matter of fact, FIFA remains a private affair. And they have statutes, they have their rules, and it is against government interference. The person I have a major problem with in this story is the Minister of Sports. I will talk about him, and then of course you also may have to mention Giwa here. Let me just talk about this one story. The story is pretty well detailed. All people to go read it for those who don't understand what happened here. There was a FIFA organized or FIFA approved Congress for Nigeria, where the current president Amaju Pinnick was elected. Before then, there was a crisis involving the former NFF chairman Alhaji Aminu Maigari, who was subsequently removed. That on its own almost led to a FIFA ban. This was in 2014. That almost affected FIFA Nigeria, who were participating, Falconets were participating in a FIFA organized competition under 20. Just like the women under 20. They almost threatened to. Well, they said because Nigeria was already playing, they won't kick us out. But this one, if they had banned Nigeria, it would have affected every football related activity. It would have affected even Enyimba, who are on the verge of qualifying. But the Minister of Sport, who I need to talk about here, issued a statement saying that it's not FIFA's business. They should respect Nigeria. Nigeria is a sovereign country and all of that. And your government has now turned around to literally say you're talking nonsense. We don't have shame. He has no business remaining in the office.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he also has the president who doesn't care because the president will never say anything about this.
Well, the acting president is speaking at the moment. President's on holiday.
The president is back.
He's back.
Yeah,
He's
he came back on
back.
Saturday.
Goodness.
Yeah, he came back on
Saturday,
Saturday.
There you go.
So you have a president who, see, our biggest problem, I say it, is not corruption. It's not even. I know Mr. Okoye says it's pressure. I think it's because we have people in government.
Incompetent.
It's lack of shame. Because you are incompetent, you don't care.
And people have no business being there.
Yeah, you have. Look, a prime minister resigned because people refused to vote stay. He resigned.
Yes.
Here, your government has shown you up to the whole world. You were making noise, you're backing. And your government says you're talking nonsense because that's what the implication.
Because
and you're still in power.
Enough.
And your government will do nothing about it.
Thank you very much for that, Orji. Well, let's see how that goes. But we move on. Speaking of governments and who will be running the government, Saraki has come out to speak some more from the Punch newspaper. Tinubu's 2023 presidential ambition is the reason for supporting Buhari. In a rather lengthy chit-chat with press, he alleges that the national leader of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, is only supporting the president because he's got the hopes of succeeding him in 2023. Says, he said it before that he will support him even if he was on a stretch. Says, I'm here for national interest, but this fellow clearly isn't. Fred, what do you make of the constant chat about nothing to do with governance that our politicians are engaging in at the moment, and we still have months to go before the elections take place?
I like what you said, like nothing to do with government. So when I read the stories back over and over, I keep thinking like, why this guy's not really talking about policies? Why they're not really talking about our, well-being and how to, improve the economy or improve policies? Everybody's just positioning themselves. They're positioning themselves with, they see that politics here, we kind of sway to, what's hearsay, a lot of hearsay, and not really like dip into like the facts, So they're just playing politics with us right now. You can hear Saraki saying this spec, it goes all the way to 2014 because he refused Tinubu to have like a part in the presidency, and then he's not about furthering his own personal interest. It's about the government isn't doing what they promised the people.
Yeah.
That's why this is going, and he's being his image is being modeled.
Yeah. So Fred, I mean, do you think that all of this this is now 2018, we're going to 2019, the Nigerian populace at this point are very well aware that politicians are playing politics with us. Do you think that we are still going to allow ourselves to be moved by this sort of rhetoric? Is this really going to influence people to continue to vote for such people who instead of focusing again on the pressing and very real needs of the Nigerian populace, are focusing on who they can point more fingers at, instead of solidifying whatever work it is that they may have done while they're in office? Do you think this is really how we're going to vote?
So this has worked historically.
Okay.
Until we actually go to the polls and then there's a change, something else happens, it's not going to change. This is historically the process that's worked. Even from the last dispensation to the current dispensation, there was a lot of things spoken in the air, whether it was driven by facts or not. And it happened that the last government was changed or was removed. So currently right now, there's no other process that's proven to work.
Okay.
So we're just going by, until we, the populace, go to the polls and vote otherwise, then they will be like, oh, let's go to the drawing board and see that there's something else that we need to do.
Interesting.
Nigerians, please make sure you get your PVCs and vote wisely. Ask the important questions and see what your government is doing for you, such as Ebonyi State government. In this next story from ThisDay newspaper, Umahi is suspending the collection of tax and levies from markets. And we took this story because we thought it was a rather interesting, an interesting move, actually. So the Ebonyi State government on Monday suspended the collection of personal income tax and other illegal revenue, they say, from markets in the state. He made this announcement at a town hall meeting, giving the order following complaints from different market women that there are a lot of people levying or taxing them that perhaps shouldn't be. Orji, what are your thoughts on this?
This issue of all these illegal levies are actually very prevalent around these areas. So you just see a task force, you see different group of
You
people.
see it here in Lagos as well.
Under a different name.
Just with just there's one reflective vest and printed shirts.
Yeah, so whether it's politically motivated, particularly the timing is immaterial here. The important thing is, as a matter of fact, what the governor has said is what you just only ask, how come we haven't done this a long time ago? Why do you charge women who are selling vegetables and other perishables in the open market? You are charging them illegal levies. These are people who make maybe a profit margin of say 100, 200 a day. I'm not kidding.
Or even 15 naira, because they do not even have shops like the ones especially that are affected in the story.
So I don't get it. So the order is that they should stop that collection by some fraud, because that's these revenue tax collectors. I don't even know who empowers them, but someone just wakes up, sets up a body, and the government has to be culpable by implication for allowing that drive for 3 years of so, and I'm not sure it even started under him, so he may have been there for a long time.
Yes,
but
because it seems to be established in states across the nation. To be fair,
it is actually.
All right.
He's moved. He also has deputy governor to set up a committee to resolve the issue of, because at the end of the day, tax must be paid, but it has to be the agreed tax,
and it must be done the proper way.
Done proper way. So that's what it has the government to do. So I can't fault this.
All right, we have a message from Joseph from Alimosho. It says, I'm afraid for this nation and where it's heading right now. Under this administration, Nigeria has become more divided across state and federal levels. Under such leadership of labeling opposition parties as the devil, it is clear that the citizens' overall development and lives improvement will be stalled, while their personal vendetta may erupt into something else. Team Wobolo from Shomolu says, so DSTV prices, you see, that's why I switched to 4 years ago, about FIFA and Niger. What the federal government has done is just stymie the impending deluge. Will we quickly sort out our house before the dam breaks loose eventually? Because when it does, my God, it will take everything in its path out. Thank you very much for this message.
Okay, let's carry on our final story from the Vanguard newspaper. A senator fails to decamp to PDP at Udom's endorsement rally. Plans gone wrong there. Plans gone wrong. Federal. Orji, going over to you for your thoughts on this story.
It's funny. Well, we have to admit that the former governor of Akwa State, Coast Bill, is a heavyweight in that state. We must admit it. We must also admit that the PDP were hit hard by his decision to move to the other party. What has happened here is that the governor is now trying to reassert himself. Say, look, I'm the new sheriff in town. But unfortunately for him, one of the things they had planned to do was at his endorsement, a senator was supposed to cross the other direction. A senator representing Eket senatorial district, who what was his name? Senator Umoyo. Etang Umoyo. He was supposed to return to the PDP. As a matter of fact, I understand he had even informed his APC party members that he was going to defect, and that led to some shouting match. So at the end of the day, he failed to show up, and he failed to show up, and his family says he was hospitalized. At the end of the day, the Director General of the Udom's campaign organization had to hurriedly announce that 3 members from APC had defected to his own party, but these are people who were not from his central districts. It's a funny story what happened.
It seems as if that was supposed to be the highlights of the day.
We're in for drama.
So much drama, so much drama everywhere. I want to thank you both for coming in. That's Fred, Alison, and of course Orji Uka. We appreciate you both. And I thank you everyone who's been listening in Lagos and everywhere else in the world and across Nigeria. I'll round up with this one comment that's coming from Tony Ayo from Ayobo, who says, listen, I don't think that Bola Tinubu could have been that loose to say to Saraki that he's supporting Buhari just to become president in 2023. So I ask myself that Saraki's statement cannot be true, because Tinubu is a wise game master. He doesn't talk loosely. Very interesting. Lagos, coming up next, there's some very interesting stuff. We got a couple of special guests in the studio. They dropped an album recently. It's called The Crown, suggesting why they should be named hip-hop royalty. Keep listening to Smooth 98.1.
The headlines.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thanks so much, guys. Nobody tweeted us with RAM locations. This nonsense.